Hackers can get into your Gmail or M365 email without your username or password and bypassing your two-factor authentication. How can they do that? Well, I'm going to let you know. Let's get into it in today's video. What's up, everyone? It's Brian. I'm a cybersecurity expert here at Exact IT and Cybersecurity, and I'm here to help you understand how hackers can get into your email without you even knowing your username, your password, or getting challenged by multi-factor authentication. And a lot of people are surprised to find out that their email is either being commandeered by a criminal hacker, or that it was even logged into, or that somebody was sending or receiving emails from your email account. And people are surprised to find out that this even happens because, hey, they're doing all the right things. They have a nice, strong, secure, long password that they use for their email, and then that they also have two-factor authentication turned on their email. So how in the world are hackers doing this, and what do you need to do to start protecting yourself? So we're going to get into that today, and we're going to let you know exactly how you can protect yourself from these types of attacks that hackers are very good at exploiting. Quite frankly, we're seeing this more than ransomware for businesses and business owners and CEOs and employees of companies being attacked and having their email taken over in this manner. And we're going to talk about what that looks like in the video today. So first off, it's important to understand, guys, that there's a lot of stuff that goes on when it comes to multi-factor authentication. A lot of people think that multi-factor authentication is the thing that protects them, or is the cybersecurity tool that they need in order to remain compliant and remain secure from criminal hackers. Don't trick yourself with a false sense of security here, because that's why you should always view cybersecurity as layers, and there's different things that you need to do at different layers in order to protect yourself. And understand that no layer that you have a tool in place or that you're doing something around is 100% foolproof. And that's because just the nature of the business that we're in is just that not everything can be protected 100%. MFA can be manipulated, it can be tricked, and I'm going to go through that a lot today. Users can be tricked to do things. I'm going to go through that a little bit today. And just vulnerabilities exist, ones that we know and ones that we don't know about. And the ones that we don't know about are the scariest ones, because criminal hackers can be taking advantage of those as we speak, and there's not a lot that anybody, even the greatest cybersecurity people in the world, can do about zero-day type vulnerabilities as they're known. So let's get into some ways about how criminal hackers can get around your MFA. First off, right, you put this thing in place, you've bought the device, or you have the phone, and you get this notification, or you have to jump into the app and put a 6-digit code in when you log into these websites. Really inconvenient, but I always tell people, when something isn't convenient, or you make it less convenient or more convenient and less, that makes it less secure. So good rule of thumb there. If things are more convenient when it comes to technology, it's probably more than likely less secure. So we have a couple ways that I'm going to go through that hackers get around your MFA. So number one, social engineering. Social engineering, simply put, is tricking a human being into revealing what their MFA code is. This usually requires timing. This isn't something that a user can be tricked right now, and then 2 hours later the hacker can then try to take advantage of it. This is usually in real time, where an email is sent to you and you go to a website by clicking on a link and not investigating whether that link is legitimate or not. And what happens is users click on these links, they go to these legitimate looking websites, say Microsoft. It looks like a Microsoft web page. You put in your username and password, and then right after you do that, it says, hey, send us your multi-factor authentication code. And the hopes there is that you're not using like a push authentication where you get a notification on your phone, you have to click approve. It's the thought that you're using a six-digit code either through the app itself or through SMS. We'll talk about why SMS is my least favorite form of MFA here in a little bit. Before we get into that, let's continue this discussion about the MFA method. So the hope is that you give them this 6-digit code that you receive through text or through the app, and then they can quickly turn around and use that code to log into your account. Now, this is pretty obvious. Like, you would have to know that this is going on, and That's not what I was talking about at the top of this video. Top of this video, I was talking about how they get into your account without you even knowing, using valid credentials. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute, and it's really important. Another way a hacker could get in is simply malware. They put malware on your system to capture MFA credentials or get things like tokens, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Tokens are very important when it comes to MFA and how you're logging into these accounts. You can also bypass MFA through intercepting SMS messages. This can be done by either the hacker having a code sent to your phone and then you getting that over to the hacker, either you by tricking you into typing it, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe they have malware on your phone or a device where they can get that information or see that information. They could have access to your email, which means that instead of having it sent to SMS or a authenticator app, you are having it sent to email, which is a really, really bad idea. Or you could become a victim of what's known as SIM swapping. SIM swapping is another way that hackers can basically clone your cell phone and then start receiving text messages to your phone. And this can be done a number of ways. It can be done by tricking or manipulating your phone company. It can be done through lost or stolen devices. It can also be done if they're able to replicate your SIM card in any way, if they were able to get their hands on it or get information about your phone in some way, shape, or form that allowed them to replicate the SIM. And then the last thing, and the more important one, is a man-in-the-middle attack. And this is where a hacker basically intercepts and modifies the communication between the user and a multi-factor authentication server. And this is really important. This is the big one that I am creating this video around, because this is what we're seeing out in the wild being exploited like crazy. And I think people need to pay attention and be aware of this. This allows hackers to potentially capture your credentials, but even worse, it allows them to capture the token. And the token, or a lot of people think of these as like cookies. They're not necessarily cookies by definition, but it's a token that allows, say, Microsoft or Google to say, hey, this is actually you logging in from your device, because now this device is trusted because you've logged into it before, you've proved your multi-factor authentication, you have a good username and password, so now we're going to quote unquote trust this device. And in that process of saying, yes, keep me logged in, or yes, trust this device for 30 days, or don't make me log in over and over again from this device, that creates this token. And when that token's created, it's transmitted from the service provider, say Microsoft 365 in this case, or Gmail, and it's transmitted back to the computer of the user. So it could be stored on that device. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If I have a man-in-the-middle attack happening, and if you got this far in the video, before I get into it, guys, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if I get 100 likes on this video, I'll actually do a man-in-the-middle demonstration of how this actually goes down and how one computer can be manipulated to pretend like it's a computer that's trusted by one of these services. And how we do this live, I'll do a live hacking demo for you guys if we get 100 likes on this video. So help us by sharing, liking, letting people know that I'm doing this, and help to get the word out that we will do a hacking demo if we get 100 likes on the video. So 100 likes on the video, thumbs up right now, be one of them. So MFA, going back to the man-in-the-middle type stuff, this is what happens. The token is sent to the user's device because they want this device to be trusted, and now that token's transmitted. Now here's a couple ways, and the most important way and the most common way that we see these attacks go down. Number one is, you got to trick the user into giving away the token. And the hacker can trick the user in giving away their auth token by convincing them, number one, to click on a malicious link or download a malicious attachment. That's one way. They basically can get into your computer and they can steal the token from there. Once the user clicks on the link or downloads the attachment, the hacker can install malware on the user's device, which can steal authentication tokens and send it back to the hacker. Once I have this token on my machine, I can then inject it into a request that will basically send this token in the browser to the server, and the server will say, oh, hey, it's Brian's computer. I trust you. I'm going to allow you in. And guess what I didn't have to do? I didn't have to type in my username, I didn't have to type in my password, and I didn't get challenged with a multi-factor authentication token in order to gain access to this person's email account. The other way that we see hackers taking advantage of this man-in-the-middle type of attack is by people using bad cyber hygiene. And what I mean by that is they don't do all the things. So they're using the multi-factor authentication. They're using a password manager. They want to make sure that they're using unique passwords on every website they log into that are long and secure and take years and years for computers to crack. Doing all the right things there. But you know what? When they're traveling, when they're out and about, when they're in the airport, when they're at the coffee shop, when they're in a restaurant, when they're in the hotel traveling for work, maybe every once in a while they might connect to an open or public Wi-Fi network. Open or public Wi-Fi networks are really bad news, especially for business people, executives. You should never connect to them. I'll talk in a little bit about what you should do, but the important thing to know about this type of attack is that a hacker can replicate a Wi-Fi radio. And in the process of creating this Wi-Fi radio or duplicating this Wi-Fi radio, they can intercept all the traffic that's being sent over this Wi-Fi network. And depending on whether you're using a VPN or whether things are encrypted on your end or not, these things could potentially lead to a hacker getting your token. So let's say you go to an airport, right? You connect to the Wi-Fi, or there's open Wi-Fi at this airport, you're waiting for the plane, and you have to jump on email. And Microsoft recognizes that you're logging in from a location that's not a location that they recognize. It's a new location. So what you have to do is you're probably going to be prompted to log in. So you log in, email address and password, and you get that two-factor token, and you say, yep, keep me signed in, you hit the yes, and that token gets sent from Microsoft to your computer. But in the meantime, the hacker who's in the middle has also seen this traffic come from Microsoft to your computer, and they're basically able to then steal that token, grab that token, and use that token to log in on multiple machines. Now, there's a whole market of people who basically steal tokens and sell them on the dark web. So within about a week or so, there's really good hackers out there that take advantage of this stuff right away. And sometimes we see it where they steal these tokens and they put them for sale on the dark web, and then it's a week or so later where you see actual behavior on these accounts, or you see compromised activity on accounts, simply because A, the token's trusted, the device is trusted, and B, nobody caught it, and these users are able to then log in after the fact, and the tokens are not revoked, or the MFA or the passwords are not reset for this user. So there's a lot of things that go into this to make sure that you know whether this is happening to you or not. But that is essentially how a lot of these tokens and a lot of these attacks happen, where users think like, I have, my username and password strong, I have multi-factor. And the other thing is we see a lot too, guys, is you got to watch with these multi-factor apps when they send you these requests, especially the push notifications, where all you have to do is click yes or no. And there's something called MFA fatigue, where you just get bombarded with these types of requests, and the hackers hope that you just click yes on one of them. So if you ever receive a multi-factor authentication request and you're actually not logging in somewhere, do the right thing and hit no or cancel that request, and make sure to report it to your security administrators and let them know that this happened, because you could be hedging off the early stages of an attack. These are the things that you need to be aware of as a user to keep your company protected and make sure that you don't do something that leads to a further attack. So make sure you pay attention to these push notifications that come through an MFA, so you don't potentially, somebody knows your username or password to your Gmail, your M365 email, but they don't know that two-factor token, or they don't have it. but you just authorized a random request that came through your phone. Now the hacker's in. This is another way that we see hackers get in that I wanted to kind of point out as a sidebar to this whole discussion about these token stealing type requests. It scares people when they find out about this kind of stuff. I remember a time when we helped out a company and we told them that these hackers were getting in because somebody at your company keeps connecting to an open Wi-Fi network that is probably compromised. And they just can't believe it because they've never received even a password reset. They've never received a multi-factor request. But because they never received this stuff, they were unaware of it. And then somebody comes along and maybe you have an assessment done on your Office 365 environment to say, like, do we have anybody logging in who shouldn't be? And then you find that somebody from halfway around the world has been logging into your email for the last 3 months. People are surprised to find this stuff out because they just are unaware that it's happening. Once hackers get into your M365, they do things like create rules. They start trying to set up accounts in your name. They dig through all your emails to try to find sensitive information like bank accounts and social security numbers to try to see if they can act like you, to do business as you, to try to open up accounts, bank accounts, credit card accounts, gift card accounts, gift card rewards programs. We've seen some crazy things that hackers have tried to do and scammers have tried to do once they gain access to somebody's business email. So we covered a lot of this man-in-the-middle Wi-Fi tokens. So we know that you shouldn't connect to public Wi-Fi networks because hackers like to set up fake Wi-Fi networks to steal this. They intercept the authentication token as it's transmitted, and then the hacker uses the stolen authentication token to access the victim's account without needing to enter their credentials or even get prompted for 2FA. So what else can we do here? Or what else should I say can hackers do? What are other ways besides setting up this fake Wi-Fi network? There's some other ways that they can get in, and I want to cover those quickly with you. Number one is DNS spoofing, and that's when a hacker can spoof your DNS. DNS is like air traffic control for your network traffic or your internet traffic. So when your computer says, hey, I want to go to Google, there's all these servers all over the internet, all over the world that respond to these requests and tell your computer, okay, hey, Google's over here. And same thing with Facebook and Instagram. They're all over here, and it tells your computer where to go on the internet to get these web pages or get these services that you're asking for. These DNS, depending on your computer, these requests can be tricked. So if you type in google.com and I have your DNS spoofed, and I say any request to google.com, don't send it to the Google server, send it over here to a server I control. That's definitely something that can be done in a way that hackers use DNS spoofing to circumvent MFA. Another one that is out there that hackers like to use, and these are, I'm kind of going in order of popularity: phishing, Wi-Fi, DNS spoofing, and then we have ARP spoofing. ARP spoofing involves sending fake ARP messages this is ARP, by the way. If you don't know what ARP is, I apologize. To the user's device to associate the hacker's MAC address with the IP address of the authentication server. This allows the hacker to intercept the authentication token as it is transmitted between the user's device and the server. Same idea here, just using an ARP protocol to do this. You can also do HTTP sniffing, packet sniffing, to sniff the network traffic. So this is in the same sense that I gave you an example around the Wi-Fi stuff. This is more for hardwired networks. So there's other ways you can, and easier ways to do it when you're dealing with Wi-Fi. When you're not dealing with Wi-Fi, you can do things like network sniffing, which basically is the same idea. It looks at everything that's going over the network and tries to pull those tokens out of the traffic if you're sending those things unencrypted or something like that. And then malware. There's all kinds of malware that'll do token stealing to get this information back to hackers, and this can all be done under your nose without you even knowing about it. So, guys, this is pretty crazy stuff. I know I went into some great detail here about what the heck hackers are doing and how they're getting into people's email accounts. This is a huge problem. This is a bigger problem than ransomware. A lot of businesses are under this type of an attack and they don't even know it. So number one, if you are a business and you are interested in knowing whether you have people in your M365 or who's trying to get in and when, because look, I can guarantee you that they are. When we look at companies' M365 activity, M365, no matter what company you are, big or small, hackers know you're living there and they're targeting you and they're going after you and they're going after you there, trying to get into your M365 accounts. It's just the nature of the beast where we live today. All of these services between Gmail and M365, you've consolidated these services, these mailboxes, these email accounts to one place, where 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this was distributed across the world inside companies' offices and networks, and now we're in one place. And you really have to monitor, just like you would monitor who's getting into your network or who's getting into your email server when you had it in your office. You need to do the same, even though it's in the cloud, up there with Microsoft, so to speak. You need to have somebody watching over this stuff. So if you are interested in learning more about how my company can help you gain visibility on what's going on in your M365, there's a link in the description. But here's some real practical tips that you can do along with the things I've already mentioned to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. And they're all going to be pretty obvious because I talked about them in the video. Number one, always use a password manager and use a strong, secure password. Make sure you use a separate multi-factor authentication tool to do your multi-factor authentication. Use either an app or a key. Do not use email. Do not use SMS unless you absolutely have to. You should never, ever, there should be no reason on this planet that you are securing your email with text message or email two-factor authentication. It should be an app. It should be a device, a token device, like a YubiKey or something like that. Those types of things are more secure than text or email. The other thing you want to make sure you do here, guys, is never, ever, ever connect to a public Wi-Fi network. If you must, I highly recommend that you figure out or find a VPN that you know, like, and trust. I personally don't recommend this. I would turn my cell phone into a hotspot, or I would go buy a hotspot for $10 a month from my cell phone provider, and I would use that as my Wi-Fi before I connect to any open Wi-Fi, hotel Wi-Fi, even if it has the lock on it. These are all shared networks. These are all shared resources. So don't get a false sense of security because it has a lock and you need to put a password in it and it seems secure because you had to go through these things. A lot of times it's just a marketing or a front-end ploy to get your username or password, or to make sure that you paid for your Wi-Fi in some way, shape, or form. These are just kind of fences or pages that they put up in front of your Wi-Fi connection. It doesn't really mean that it's secure. So unless you own the network, unless you know what the network is and all those things, like you've set it up and you know it's secure, I would highly recommend staying off of anything. I know it's convenient. I know we want to jump on Wi-Fi when our cell signal is not good, but these are the things that can happen. And you only have to be on the network for hackers to start figuring this stuff out. You don't really need to be doing any major transactions like logging into your bank or logging into your email. Just the fact that you're on their networks that they can control and they can do things on puts you in a more vulnerable place than if you just stayed off this stuff completely. So I highly recommend that you really consider a hotspot device dedicated for this purpose, or turning your phone into a hotspot. If you're a business, this is something you should invest in. I know it seems like an extra cost, but what's the cost for security if you can add these devices to your account for 10 or 20 bucks a month? It really makes a lot of sense. So that's it for me, guys. I mean, have you ever dealt with business email compromise? Remember, 100 likes, I'll do a hacking demo where we show you how one computer that logs into M365, another computer can log in just like it's that computer very easily. It's called, passing the token, or pass the hash as we call it. And we steal that token and we move it over to another machine and we log in like we're the original machine. So 100 likes, we'll do that video for you. But let us know, have you ever dealt with business email compromise? Have you ever had to deal with multi-factor authentication bypass, where your account that was protected with MFA got breached or had an incident or was compromised in some way, shape, or form. And what happened? Let us know. So love to hear from you. Until the next video, stay safe out there. Take care, everyone.